doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Egy olyan csoport, ezek az unió vezetői, akik Brüsszelben ülnek, ők a brüsszeli bürokraták. Akik meg úgy gondolkodnak, hogy minden válság arra való, hogy a föderális, tehát a tagállamok hatáskörét csorbító, a központ hatalmát erősítő és centralizáló változásokat érjenek el. Ez mégiscsak egy érdekes dolog, hogy akármilyen válság volt az elmúlt 15 évben, pénzügyi válság, migrációs válság, aztán a Covid válság, meg most a háború, az mind oda vezetett végén, hogy Brüsszel hatásköröket vett el a tagállamoktól. Tehát a brüsszeli mesterterv, hogy legyen egy Európai Egyesült Államok, ebben egy hasznos eszköz a háború, mert, és látom is, egyre több jogkört próbálnak elvenni tőlünk. Most az energiagazdálkodás, honnan vehetünk gázt meg olajat, honnan nem vehetünk, akkor a fegyvergyártás, a fegyveripar, a hitelnyújtás, amihez kötődik, ez mind a központból jön. Tehát van egy a háborút centralizálásra használó erőcsoport is. Több nagyon erős csoport egyszerre érdekelt abban, hogy a háború folytatódjék. Mi következik ebből? Nekünk egyre több olyan csoportot kell találni, aki meg abban érdekelt, hogy a háborúnak vége legyen. Az amerikaiak szerintem például ilyenek. Ezért kellene nekünk az amerikaiakkal a lehető legszorosabb együttműködés.
Предложение стороны американцев, которое нам представляется вполне приемлемым.
А где возможное место встречи какое?
Ну, я пока не могу говорить, хотя оно, в принципе, определено.
Считанные дни, это значит уже на следующей неделе? Вы же сказали дни, а не недели.
Ориентировочно, да, на следующей неделе. Сейчас будем работать, как... Что?
А вот встреча.
Где будет, скажите, я только что сказал.
А вот Рубио сказал, что теперь есть что обсуждать. То есть сигналы наши есть.
Today, the Department of Justice and State Department are announcing a historic $50 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Maduro uses foreign terrorist organizations like TDA, Sinaloa, and Cartel of the Suns to bring deadly drugs and violence into our country. To date, the DEA has seized 30 tons of cocaine linked to Maduro and his associates, with nearly 7 tons linked to Maduro himself, which represents a primary source of income for the deadly cartels based in Venezuela and Mexico. Cocaine is often laced with fentanyl, resulting in the loss and destruction of countless American lives. The DOJ has seized over $700 million of Maduro-linked assets, including 2 private jets, 9 vehicles, and more. Yet Maduro's reign of terror continues. He is one of the largest narco-traffickers in the world and a threat to our national security. Therefore, we've doubled his reward to $50 million. Under President Trump's leadership, Maduro will not escape justice, and he will be held accountable for his despicable crimes. If you have any information to bring this criminal to justice, call 1-202-307-4228 or go online.
كتبنا بصبر حروف
Ya, decimos todo, ya algo todo. Ya, ¿qué no? ¿Qué no?
Well, we're in it now, sports fans. It's been an intense night. We just got rolling in to get the show going because we've been up all night working on stories. Just amazing. I want to say hello to the crew. Thank you for joining us in the chat. Please keep up the engagement. Love it. Love the comments on Rumble, on X, on everywhere. Just fantastic. Thank you very much. The intensity is crazy. That's the theme of the show today, the intensity of what's happening. You saw the Beirut Hezbollah supporters after the government decided to disarm Hamas by December, or not Hamas, Hezbollah by the end of December. It looks like the population is not so cool with that, and we're on the way to Beirut, so it should be intense, sports fans. We'll see. Also, the Armenian story is blowing up. We knew we were doing the right thing, but we didn't know how much of a right thing we were doing because we have stumbled on a global conspiracy to destroy the Christian faith. I'm not joking. We're going to dig into that in Armenia, but so much to talk about. By the way, whatfinger.com, please check them out. They're a great aggregator. We're blocked everywhere, and I'll tell you why here in a second, because they knew what was going on with us early, and they've been trying to destroy our distribution for 5 years. But whatfinger.com is a partner of ours. They post our stuff, a lot of it, and we really appreciate that. So please, if you need a news aggregator site, check them out after cdm.press, of course, 3 times a day. But we're trying to decide what to do on the Beirut trip. We are inclined to go because we think it's needed and really important to talk about what's happening in Christianity in the Middle East. Because guess what? We're going to break a story here that we just broke on cdm.press. I'll bring this up now. We have interviewed Bob Amsterdam many, many times. He is the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, the attorney, the counsel for them. He's based out of London. He's a Jewish man, but a very honorable man. And he is supporting and defending the Ukrainian Orthodox Church against attacks from inside the U.S. government to destroy the Christian faith in Ukraine and take it over with a CCP-style state church. Guess what? This report, which came out in Armenia, is saying that the Trump administration has sent Bob to Armenia to monitor what's going on with the Armenian Apostolic Church, the destruction of the church by the Prime Minister Pashinyan, who is a globalist and is attacking the church, literally threatening to arrest priests, the head of the church to arrest the Catholicus, the head of the church here literally sometime this month, and raid the main compound like the Vatican of the Apostolic Church in Etchmiadzin outside of Yerevan, the capital, which we visited, and we put up video there. It's where the cross that stabbed Christ in the side is said to be located. We saw it. We put pictures up. You saw it. You can find those on CDM if you want. But what a stunning, stunning development. And let's dig further into that, because what is extremely interesting to me is this is an article that came out in Armenia that he was coming. And here's the interview we did recently with Bob, one of many. But the article in Armenia is blocked across the internet from translation. How wild is that? This means that this is a globalist attack on the Christian faith that's very planned, very meticulous, and very well being executed from people with a lot of power. So we found this fascinating. Of course, now we're going to be digging deeper on this and finding out exactly what is going on. But we know Bob, and we'll probably have him on at some point to talk about this. But I just found this report just downright amazing. Now we're going to shift. By the way, I'll just do the mission brief here real quick. Today is August 8th. I'm your host, L Todd Wood. Here's your mission brief. Trump peace plan to come today in the Caucasus at the White House. We're going to follow that. We'll put out a video on cdm.press later in the day, live streams of that between Aliyev, the president of Azerbaijan, and the prime minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan. Israel confirms Gaza occupation. A lot to talk about there, and we're going to talk about it here with our first guest. In the second segment, Lebanon rages after deciding to disarm Hezbollah. We're going to be likely reporting direct from Beirut next week. So we'll give you that when we get it. Ukraine war ending. You saw the Ushakov, the aide to President Putin, discussing that it was accepted by the Russians, Trump's offer. So I'm hopeful there. You know, the Ukraine war is a big one. We've been on it early and we've been on it consistently, and we're not going to stop until the killing stops. And so we're hopeful for that. And last, will the EU collapse? This is a story a theme we're also going to bring to you over the next few weeks to months, because we think the EU is an evil globalist fascist with elements of the Fourth Reich, the Third Reich inside of it, along with the US government, along with Canada. We think we're uncovering something really, really big here, and we're going to talk about it. I want to get into the corridor story in Armenia, but second segment, we've got Niv Kaplan direct from Tel Aviv, because this Gaza thing is huge. The U.S. is involved. We're reading Trump is upset with Netanyahu of the starving of the kids. So we're going to get into that first hour. Second hour, we've got Ali Safavi from the Iranian Resistance talking about the biggest story, because you're hearing rumors out of Israel now that they're going to attack Iran again. Trump's even saying it. So we want to stay on this story that you can take it down from the inside. You don't need American troops on the ground in the region. So, wow, I got it all out. A lot going on. I want to play with you right now a video. I was on Steve Bannon's War Room today. And by the way, I'll be on Emerald Robinson. What's the name of her show? Something Truth. I'll be on her show today, this afternoon, talking about all of this right after this, actually. I mean, I talk about intensity. It's interview after interview after interview after from our side, and then people interviewing us, and stories breaking and sources banging on the internet. You're not paying attention. We've got this going on in Timbuktu, and we're like, dude, we got like 8 ahead of you. So be cool. So we will get to all of this, but I want to play for you the interview I did with Steve Bannon yesterday. It's about 5 minutes, but I think it was good, and we will go from there after this. So here we go.
L Todd Woods joins us. Todd, everybody's talking about Putin and you know, maybe a White House meeting, maybe somewhere else, a rapprochement, peace. But tomorrow, and you followed this better than anybody, tomorrow is actually a peace conference at the White House. Tell us who the participants are, why this is such a big deal, and why President Trump's been a driver of this, sir.
Well, as you know, Steve, Armenia is the first Christian country, and we were just spent 2 weeks in Yerevan looking at the history there and why this is so important, because nobody's talking about the persecution of Christians, and luckily, President Trump is doing something about it. The president of Azerbaijan, Aliyev, will be there, as well as the prime minister of Armenia, and they will be discussing the Trump route for international trade. It's called TRIPS, prosperity and something, and it is a corridor along southern Armenia, along the border of Iran, between an exclave of Azerbaijan and the mainland of Azerbaijan. So many people see this as a brilliant move, and that Trump is giving Armenia, the Christian country, which has been attacked for, as you know, 100 years, the Apostolic Church, is now going to have a soft security guarantee with U.S. contractors on the ground guarding this corridor along the Iranian border. And it's really freaking out the Russians and the Iranians also, because that gives the U.S. access to that area and basically cuts them out, China as well, from the trade up into Europe. So many see this as a brilliant move. You know, with what's going on in Gaza and contractors, there's a lot of I guess, worry that you will have Americans in harm's way along the Iranian border, and that hasn't worked out well many times in the past. But I think this is going to be signed tomorrow, so it's a huge deal, and most people are not aware of it.
So hang on for a second. Two things. Number one, because I'm pressed for time, give me this, because you've been on this better than anybody, I think, or as well as the best. The persecution of Christians. Talk to me about that, because that does not get a lot of attention here in America.
Well, and I fault the Christian ministries for this. I mean, they're not talking about this. You just had thousands of Syrians killed in Syria, and there wasn't a peep out of anyone. And so we decided we're going to go there and talk about it. And Armenia has a decade-long history of being murdered. I mean, the first genocide of the 20th century was in Armenia, where the Turks killed over 2 million of them, and it's still happening in many ways. You just had the war with Azerbaijan and Nagorno-Karabakh, which was a historic Armenian Christian enclave. I went to the first Christian cathedral in Etchmiadzin in Armenia, right outside of Yerevan, the capital, last week. I saw the spear that stuck Christ in the side while he was on the cross. I mean, Bartholomew, the disciple, brought it up to Armenia. I mean, the history and the real Christian belief system is there in the Apostolic Church, meaning it came from the disciples, the Armenian Orthodox Church. And yes, we have to talk about this much more. We're going to be in Beirut next week to do the same thing with a team, talking about what's going on in the Middle East. Christians have been wiped out of the Middle East, as you know, and I know you've talked about that. So we've got to start raising the bar on the attacks and persecutions on Christianity globally.
So Todd, we're going to give you plenty of time and a platform to get to this, and we're going to have other people, Jason Jones and other, because it's a massacre going over there. Before I let you go, though, and because yours America first as people get, when you talk about this corridor, a lot of people are going, hey, we haven't emptied the sanctuary cities in the United States. We got so many problems here. What in the hell are we giving any time about some corridor over there? How do you make the argument that that's America first, sir?
Well, I have not made that argument. I've seen both sides. A lot of people are very concerned about, you're supporting Azerbaijan, a Muslim country, with Turkey, and maybe the reason for this corridor has more to do with the Black Sea and the Romanian base we're building on the Black Sea than supporting Christians. But the byproduct is Armenia gets a soft security guarantee from the U.S. I was on the ground. People are saying, look, we're going to have another war. Pashinyan, the leader of Armenia, is a globalist. He's bringing in migrants. He's attacking the Orthodox Church, just like they're doing in Ukraine, exactly the same way. So the government there is not building a better Armenia. They're giving it away for the globalist agenda. So being there may stop the persecution and destruction of the first Christian country ever in an organized manner. And so I think that's important as a Christian. And as for the U.S., it gives us a lot of leverage in the South Caucasus. There is a concern, as I said, over exposure. You're right on the Iranian border. Iranians are very good. The IRGC is very good at taking hostages. So we'll see. But I think hopefully the Trump administration thinks through all this from a security perspective. But the upside is the Christian countries get a guarantee security-wise, and we get access to the trade and influence in the region. So if you want that, this is going to do that.
Okay, tomorrow we're going to cover this wall-to-wall. It's at the White House, so we're going to cover this wall-to-wall tomorrow. Pretty historic on President Trump's march to a Nobel Prize. To L Todd Woods, where do we go to get CDM media? Where do folks go to get all your content?
CDM.press is the main site where we funnel all of our 13 digital sites into that site. You get it's updated daily. I'm on Real L Todd Wood on X. And thank you, Steve. Good to see you again. You look good.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. L Todd Woods. Tomorrow, peace. It's a Sunshine Peace Conference at L Todd Wood.
I'm a naturopathic doctor. We are in the world of medicine very acquainted with many modalities, but probably the one most familiar with everybody would be two things: homeopathy and herbals or herbs, maybe some nutrients too, vitamins, minerals, that kind of thing. Now, we do know a lot about the drugs because we have to find out what drug you're taking affects you and what nutrient it depletes you of, because most every drug pharmacy product will deplete something. So we have been trained, and we have a database that we can check into that says this is going to take your B12 away. The pharmaceutical company cannot patent organic substances made by the body. You're not born short of Advil. You're not born short of Ritalin.
Yeah.
You can be born short of insulin, right?
Mm-hmm.
The answers to staying healthy and keeping away from even SARS or any of those things getting into you is staying healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You and I get sick because our terrain gets out of balance. Well, that's the same thing in the soil. You and I are made from this thing called dirt. And when we get out of balance, we have the same thing happen. Weeds start to grow in our body. Right? And that's what we want in our body. We want nutrients that we don't understand how to get well enough yet, because our suppliers are lacking knowledge and nutrient density foods.
So this is what drove you to develop this, was your knowledge of this, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, My Pillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Welcome back to the SCIF. We're going to jump right into our next story and bring in my good friend Niv Kaplan, direct from Tel Aviv. Niv, thank you for joining me, man. Short notice. Appreciate it. How you doing today?
My pleasure. Thanks, Todd. I'm all right.
Oh, good to hear. Was worried about you, actually. A lot going on over there. So what's the man on the street in Israel think of the IDF occupying Gaza for Netanyahu?
Well, there's a lot of demonstration these days.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the parents of the hostages are extremely concerned, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like whoever is whoever wants a diplomatic solution, whoever is against continuing the war, is demonstrating and talking and shouting. But for some reason, just doesn't help. They sit in the cabinet and they make decisions that seem to be against the feeling of the country, of the people, and sending soldiers. Soldiers are spending months in the military reserve,
mm-hmm.
Getting killed, getting injured. We keep hearing it, and plus the fact that they want to pass a law that the ultra-religious will not serve in the army. Yet they keep the regular soldiers in danger every day. They keep the hostages in danger every day. They make all the wrong decisions, and just they stay in power. It's unexplainable.
So there's a the IDF has got some issues. I'm reading there's a lot of PTSD. There's suicides. It's not good for the common soldier, right?
No.
Yeah.
A lot of the soldiers that spend a lot of time. Well, first of all, there's the PTSD from the October 7th itself, both for soldiers and for the civilians who were there.
Yeah.
People who saw, and then the people who saw what happened, the people who came down and to try and release them and saw the carnage. A lot of them are in PTSD. You can't get a psychologist or a psychiatrist to talk to these days, because they're all fully booked, and just, you know, young people are just I don't know, they're just falling under the weight, and it's sad to see, and the cabinet just, you know, they're not connected to the people, I think.
So the soldiers, I mean, you've been at war for 2 years now. I mean, intense warfare, using most of your military all over the Middle East, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, West Bank, Gaza. What is the end goal for Netanyahu, in your opinion?
Sorry, say that again?
What is the end goal for Netanyahu?
The end goal for Netanyahu is to stay out of prison.
Yeah.
It's a joke. His trial is a joke. He keeps postponing it, saying, you know, giving all sorts of excuses, you know, that he needs to have, you know, urgent matters. And for some reason, the judges allow him to skip court. It's been going on for 3 years, and his main, in my opinion, and what it looks like, that, you know, what should have been done was try to get the hostages back on October 8th, 2023, and try to get a political solution. But we're now at August 25.
Yeah.
And we're still fighting, and there's no solution. And we got people, we got hostages dead, and hostages in extremely bad conditions. And we got soldiers in bad conditions, and we got the country in a bad way. And so his end goal, he doesn't care. It's all personal. It's his personal agenda, I think.
So, what does the IDF have enough troops to occupy Gaza effectively? I mean, is that's going to put a lot of guys in danger? Because I'm hearing on one side, you got to get rid of Hamas so we can get rid of Netanyahu and Gavir and Smotrich and whatever. But on the other side, people are saying you can't do it. You don't have the force structure. And maybe they want U.S. Army to come in, which I'm going to be totally against. I mean, what do you think?
Look, they rely on the reserve duties, on the reserves, and the reserves have jobs, have families, have plans, have issues, I mean, it's not like the regular army that, you know, you're there and you do whatever they tell you to do, but you got to send in the reserves. And I don't know how long these people serving now 8 and 9 and even more than a year in reserve duty are going to keep serving. I mean, and without the reserve duty, I don't think we can hold it. I don't think we can actually be able to hold all fronts, including Syria now, and including Lebanon, and obviously Gaza. Yeah. So without the reserve duty, reservists, I think we're going to have a hard time holding it up.
A lot of those are from out of the country, right? I mean, they're Israeli, but they may live in the U.S. or whatever, and they came back to be reservists. Am I correct?
Well, I don't know if a lot of them, but when the war started, a lot of them did come back because, you know, we're used to short wars, you know. We used to, 7-day war. We used to 23-day war. We used to a month war, but nobody in his worst dreams thought it was going to take almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And people get stuck here doing reserve duty, and it's part of the law. And if they refuse, then they put them in jail. So I don't know. I don't know what happened to those who came from abroad, if they haven't returned and they don't want to serve. And I really don't know what's going on in the heads. I mean, me personally, if I was at the age of reserve duty, I wouldn't want to go.
Yeah.
Not now. I mean, maybe in the beginning, but not now.
What is it true that certain Israeli citizens can't leave the country at this point? Is that a fact, or is that just propaganda I've heard?
For what reason?
I don't know, to keep people in to fight, or have you heard that? If you haven't, then obviously that's not a thing.
I haven't heard it. I haven't heard anything that Israelis are not allowed, but I did hear that, for example, in Greece today or yesterday was what they call a rage day against Israelis. And now you hear the French and the British and the Germans all, all ganging up on our policy, and I think correctly. And there are places that Israelis are warned not to go to, because it's beginning to be dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't done anything wrong, but just because I was born in Israel, I don't support the policy. I want everything to end. I want a diplomatic solution. But when I go abroad, people just see me as an Israeli and believe that I'm part of that. I'm not.
Yeah.
And many of us are not.
Is there a split in the country happening right now?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
There's a big split. See, the people who support Netanyahu are, I mean, you don't really hear them.
Yeah.
But he manipulates the situation where, he wants to fire the top legal advisor to the government. He does everything to weaken the opposition, and whoever is supporting him doesn't have to do much, because it's under the law. They keep saying we got 64 mandates, we got majority in the parliament, and we can do whatever we want, even if the head of the army said it's a mistake to keep fighting and to try to take over Gaza. They say to him, some people that never served in the army, some are ex-terrorists, some are, they say to him, you do whatever we decide, the cabinet. So,
Niv, you have a situation around the world where leaders are working for an agenda, but not necessarily for the people that they govern. Look at Zelensky, look at Biden. I mean, do you see that with Netanyahu, that people think he's got some other agenda?
Of course.
Yeah.
His agenda is to remain out of prison, to delay his trial as much as possible, to remain in power, to get all the benefits, all the perks. The last thing on his mind is, I mean, think of it. I mean, you've got prisoners, hostages, for a year and 10 months there, and the photos that it just showed from down there, maybe 20 of them are alive. Nobody knows how many. Definitely many of them are dead already, and he just keeps, they speak in the most important subject in the government morning meetings is how to guard the Netanyahu family. This is what they do. This is what they talk about.
Wow.
So it's and it just keeps on going. It's like we're helpless.
What happened to Qatargate? I mean, that was in the news and then it just disappeared. Have you heard anything more about that?
I mean, no, it just there are articles that the people involved everybody around Netanyahu, but not him,
Mm-hmm.
are being investigated. Passed money here, did that, did this. I'm not sure. See, we normalized the situation here.
Yeah.
Where people could just do whatever they want. And everything becomes normal. Car accidents are normal. Hostages are normal. Being in war for almost 2 years is normal. They just normalize the situation, and people keep on living. It's just crazy.
Well, in the West, especially in the U.S., you have a lot of, I guess, people speaking out against the war, and the immediate reaction is, well, they're getting money from Qatar. Well, all of Bibi's circle is getting money from Qatar, so I find that quite interesting. Are people aware of that over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Who. I mean, it's obvious that he passed on money to the Hamas, thinking that millions, thinking that I don't know what he thought, but obviously they used it to build the tunnels.
Yeah,
they didn't use it for anything else but to prepare the war. Yet he transferred money to them.
There's a lot of concern from your own military leaders that what's happening with these constant wars is really putting the whole nation at risk from a national security standpoint. Are people aware of that inside Israel?
Absolutely.
Huh.
Absolutely. I don't know. Look, I don't know about people who served and who participated in the war, because I'm not one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm overage. But who knows what's going to happen to anybody who gets on an airplane and lands in Germany or England or France, and he's been to the war, and they take him aside and they start to interrogate him. You don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really scary. And it's getting worse and worse because, and it's not the people of Israel that's supporting this. It's just the government.
Yeah.
That cabinet that they keep, and but go tell them you're. What can you say?
So, correct me if I'm wrong. You have Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, who represent, I think, a minority faction of the Israeli population that have formed a government with Netanyahu, and he has to keep them happy in order to continue his power, if you will.
Absolutely.
And so that minority has massive, I guess, access and power that they normally wouldn't have. And you're seeing that kind of play out on the big screen. Is that
absolutely
what's happening? Interesting.
Absolutely. He uses them, or they use him. I don't know which uses who. They used one another to progress their agenda.
Mm-hmm.
The agenda is build, take over Gaza,
mm-hmm.
build new Jewish settlements in Gaza. These people, don't even. I mean, nobody there is in threat of getting injured or killed. They're just sending soldiers to the tunnels and to the Gaza, to the Strip, in order to support their agenda. And it's. I mean, at least what I think, and what many of people in Israel think, is that it's exactly the opposite of what we need to do.
Yeah.
But we're helpless. This is a helpless situation.
Last question, then I want to know about your books. October 7th, there was a report or a testimony in the Knesset last week of a soldier who said he was told to pull off the line. Did that get any to pull off the line before the attacks? Has that been discussed among the public, or is that an issue, or are people not worried about that?
There's so many stories coming out of there. Yeah, but there was a story that one of the brigades was told to pull off the line.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know if there was just they noticed the attack, the amount of people, the amount of terrorists coming in, So they worried about it was maybe a small unit. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
But obviously nobody got there in time, and they, they just got in through the fence, and they say there was 3,500 Hamas terrorists that crossed the fence into Israel that day.
Number. That's a big number. Yeah.
Huge number.
So you were very early on the human trafficking. That's where we met years ago. Your book Tracks was fantastic. I mean, it's an intense book. I'll tell you that because I read it. But it's all your books. If you love intense authors, geopolitical authors, you're one of them. But tell us what you're working on now.
Well, I just published 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them are sequels to Tracks. One is called Sleepers. The other is called The Hijacking. Mm-hmm. And I published another book called White Boy, which is about reincarnation in court. They take an issue of reincarnation is debated in a court of law in New York City. It's a different type of story, but it's still fiction. But I think it would make a lot of people think. Mm-hmm. Whether there's life after death, whether your conscience can transfer to another human being. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Niv, thank you so much for your time. And again, short notice. Something happens in Israel. I got to call Niv and get him on the show. So thanks, man, for being so good about it. Take care. We'll have you back. Ciao.
All right, Todd. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7. I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free, or check out our per kill bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our per kill bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
Pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down, and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah, we'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah. Oh, the men will cheer, the boys will shout, the ladies they will all turn out and will all.
Welcome back to the SCIF. That's an old Union Civil War song. We're going to talk about Civil War in the monuments today here in a second. But we get right to the source. You'll see with Niv Kaplan, just great source inside Tel Aviv, always been accurate. And you're not going to get our perspective anywhere else. And we're proud of that. And we're going to continue that. We're going to have in the second hour, the top of the hour, Ali Safavi from the National Council of Resistance in Iran. Who have been studying their movement for a long time. By the way, I wrote this book paying the price, which is their motto, the untold story of the Iranian resistance. Over 130,000 of them have been executed in the last 40 years by the regime, including lots of young girls, which are some of the drivers of the movement. You're talking teenage girls who know that they are going to get murdered if they go protest, and they do it anyway. So moving book will bring tears to your eyes, but really important book that we can take down this regime from the inside. It's by History of Books. You can get it anywhere books are sold, and you can get signed copies from History of Books. So also, we're on podcast everywhere. So if you missed the show, you can get us on podcast. Don't forget about that. And we have a new book list out on the Manhattan.press. So go to the Manhattan.press top menu. The bestsellers list just was published last night. I think the date is July 12th. There's a couple weeks delay as all the numbers come in that we have to collate. But that is up now as far as just the best-selling books in the United States. No bias. There's liberal books on there. It's simply by the numbers, they say. So go to the Manhattan.press top menu, the Manhattan bestsellers list, and you can order the books there too from us. And you can order any book. If you click on the checkout button, it'll take you to the bookstore where you can search for any book. Buy it through us. Why buy it through Amazon when you can get it through us? And help free media, just an easy way. And we're trying to build a retail ecosystem around CDM so that people need products. You know, one way they can support us is just if you need a book for business, for the school, for the beach read, for a trip, for the airplane ride, you can just go to the CDM bookstore and buy it there. So all at the top of CDM.press are a lot of our retail offerings. The CDM bookstore is there where you can search and buy any book and not support the globalists, but support free media. So thank you for that. So we have Ali Safavi at the top of the hour. I just want to dig into some of these stories here real quick before we move on to that. As far as the corridor story, the Armenian corridor, by the way, there is a meeting today at 2:30. We're going to be live streaming it on CDM. We'll have the link where you can go in there and watch it, of the peace negotiation conference result, consequence, whatever, finalization with Donald Trump and President Aliyev from Azerbaijan and the Prime Minister Pashinyan from Armenia. They're going to be at the White House. I think there's going to be bilateral meetings, one after the other, and then a trilateral meeting, all three of them. They're going to sign some kind of agreement. It's likely going to be the corridor from Azerbaijan mainland along the Iranian border to the exclave of Azerbaijan. And it's going to be gas, rail, all of that. And the U.S. is going to lease and secure this corridor. They say for 99 years. We'll see what the details come out. The Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians are freaking out about this. Let's look at the, let's look at this real quick. I'm going to bring up the area so you can see it, what we're talking about here, because we are an intel brief at the end of the day. So let's bring this up and then I'll make it bigger. So you see the dot there in the middle. That's the Black Sea. To the left, you see Romania, Odessa, Ukraine. That's the Crimean Peninsula right above that red dot. And to the right, you have Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey, and in the South Caucasus, and Iran to the far right, and Armenia right there in the middle. You can see there's a kind of a Armenia. It used to be a bigger kingdom, but it's been shrunk after the genocides. But it has kind of a peninsula down to Iran, and there's an exclave to the left, and then Azerbaijan to the right. So the corridor is going to run along that border. Let me just bring that over and so you can see exactly what I'm talking about here. I'll make it a little bigger. So you see there is Yerevan, that's the capital of Armenia, and you see Azerbaijan to the right. And then you see kind of like a finger going down to the Iranian border. That's where the corridor is going to be, the Zanjir corridor across between those two sections of Azerbaijan. But it's right in the middle from the Caspian Sea with all the oil and gas, and it's going to give the United States access to all of those natural resources and cut out Russia and cut out Iran. And it'll be Turkey and Azerbaijan in the United States, and Armenia is kind of a soft guarantee. The Christians don't get much say in this. It's the Muslims in the Trump administration. So, and you see to the left here is Romania and Bulgaria, and Ukraine to the north, that gives the United States huge access and resources and control and influence in the South Caucasus and in the Black Sea and in Asia Minor, or Anatolia, as it's called. The Russians, the Iranians, and the Chinese don't like this one bit. And so I'm going to bring up a slide that I saw. Hold on one second. This is from one of the local Telegram channels in Russia, and essentially saying that this is going to give the United States access and influence in a region long dominated by Russia and Iran. And they don't like it, and possibly it's going to be needed to use force to remove the Americans. That's just one take. The other take is it gives Armenia a soft guarantee security-wise, but this is a big deal. And we broke it early. I think we were one of the first in the West to break this, that it was happening, and now we're going to be on it. We have the coverage. We've been to Armenia multiple times. We have team on the ground, and we can get you the information early, like we're doing with this Bob Amsterdam story this morning. So a lot happening, sports fans. We're going to stay on that. Obviously, we'll bring you coverage later in the day as it happens. Another big story in the Middle East, in Eastern Europe, is Lukashenko, the longtime leader of Belarus, says he will not run for another term. And his son is not going to take power. And he's also saying he's been the back channel between Moscow and Washington as far as negotiations in Ukraine, which makes sense. It's quite possible. But this is a big deal. There was a color revolution attempt against Lukashenko several years ago in Belarus, which means White Russia, by the way, Belarus. And it's to the west of the mainland Russian Federation, near the Baltics. And it's a big deal that Lukashenko is not going to run. So who's going to take over from Lukashenko, and what's going to be his future? Obviously, that's been pre-guaranteed to allow him to step down, because normally when a dictator steps down, he's worried about being killed. Obviously, that's been dealt with to a satisfactory manner for Lukashenko. So again, we'll stay on that story. It's important. Now, you saw the video in the cold open with all of the Hezbollah supporters across Beirut showing their displeasure with the decision by the government of Lebanon to disarm Hezbollah, which is the Iranian proxy army. And so we're supposed to be in Beirut next week. It's going to be a little sporty. I think we're still going to go. We just got to get some security stuff set up. So we'll be reporting from Beirut, I think, next week. That's 80-20 going to happen. We'll let you know. If we don't go now, we'll go later. So there's stories to be told there about the persecution and removal of Christians from the Middle East, and we're going to go country to country and try to bring you some really good information and be out there on this topic, because it has to be talked about. Also, Israel, you heard, is going to occupy Gaza. Israel is also bombing Lebanon. There's also reports of more bombing from to Iran. So it's a mess in the Middle East, and I hope Trump can find some peace there somehow, and also in Ukraine. All of these areas need to stop the war. This one is Ushakov on camera. You saw in the cold open that the offer given by the Americans to the Russians was acceptable in their terms. He didn't really go into what that was. If you scroll down in this article on CDM, you can see some of the points that were reported to be in the agreement, but we can't confirm these. It's not a peace agreement, but a ceasefire, de facto recognition of Russian territorial seizures, cancellation of most Western sanctions, returning to importing gas and oil from Russia, but no guarantee on NATO non-expansion, and no promise to suspend military support to Ukraine. So this has been a craw in the side of the whole negotiations. We don't know if that's the case, but we will stay on it, because this, again, is all about what we've been for the last almost since 2014. We've been talking about over a decade that this war is not our war and it needs to end. Some good stuff happened yesterday. If you go to our Armed Forces channel, armedforces.press, you can see that the reconciliation monument that was in Arlington Cemetery that was removed, it's a Civil War monument. You got to realize at the end of the Civil War, the South was still powerful in many ways, although just its economy was destroyed, but it was still a force in many ways. In fact, they attempted to kill Lincoln. But they wanted to reconcile with the North and bring the Union back together. So what did they do? They gave a lot of things to the Southerners in Congress. And one of them was naming bases and putting up monuments to reconcile the Southern cause with the Union mandate. So this reconciliation monument in Arlington Cemetery was near the Southern troops to honor them. And of course, the Black Lives Matter movement took it down. So this is going back up. It was destroyed, but it's being rebuilt and put back. That's a good thing. Our history should not be removed. Now, there are other statues going up. Well, there's one in DC, General Pike, who there's an interesting article I'm going to put up that he was actually a high-level Mason, and that there was some other globalist things going on. But anyway, we'll research that. But we're glad to see the Confederate stuff being put back in our history. It needs to be remembered, no matter what your thoughts were on, just honoring the soldiers, who most of them just fought for their homes. They were just fighting for their land, their homes, and very few of them actually owned slaves. And slavery was a thing across the board, and the U.S. removed it. So that's a good thing. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We'll have Ali Safavi from the National Council of Resistance in Iran. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our CDM.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishatsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. Welcome back to the SCIF. We like to bring to you the source of the news, direct from the horse's mouth, as they say. We just were bringing you information out of the Middle East, and now we're going to go to the historical ancient nation of Persia, now called Iran. And we have Ali Safavi, one of the spokesmen for the National Council of Resistance in Iran. And I'm going to bring in Ali now. Ali, thank you for joining me, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Well, of course, thank you very much, Todd. It's great to be with you. A lot is happening, so let's see what we can talk about.
Yes, well, you had a conference yesterday. Let's start with there first, and then I have some question for you. What did you reveal yesterday?
Well, yesterday, our office in D.C. Basically revealed the previously unknown command and structure of the Iranian regime's the terrorist operations abroad. As you may know, on July 31st, the United States plus 13 other Western nations issued a joint statement expressing deep concern about the rise of Iranian regime's terrorism on their territories, in some cases using organized crime gangs like Moroccan Mafia and others. And our revelation dealt with that. We laid bare the command structure, who are the key leaders, and who are the people that devise, plan, and carry out these terrorist operations abroad. Interestingly, two of those identified actually are, one of them is the current Iranian ambassador to Pakistan, and the other, Ghulam Hossein Mohammad was the actually station chief of the Ministry of Intelligence in Europe. Then when the Mujahideen Khalq, the MEK, were relocated to Albania, he was sent there as the ambassador. And of course, that's where in March of 2018, they devised a car bombing of the New Year celebration at Ashraf 3, where several senior U.S. Former officials like New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani and John Bolton, and also the American Deputy Chief of Mission, plus several Europeans were present. Fortunately, Albanian security services foiled that plot. Ultimately, that led to the expulsion of Mohammad Nia from Albania and the closure of the regime's embassy. But interestingly, Mohammad Nia was also a key figure during the nuclear talks between the Obama administration and the Iranian regime. And there are many pictures of him in meetings with John Kerry and with Catherine Ashton, the EU former high representative, talking about nuclear program of Iran. So while, of course, he was there as a diplomat, in reality, the Americans and the Europeans were talking to a hardcore terrorist. And another gentleman, Reza Amiri Moghadam, who is now, as I said, the ambassador to Pakistan, was also part of the nuclear negotiating team, and also was heavily involved in discussions when the Americans in Iraq, Ryan Crocker, the American ambassador in Iraq, was negotiating with the Iranians, and this guy was sitting there in the meeting. So again, you have the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence and the IRGC Sports Force, the extraterritorial arm, engaged in these so-called negotiations. And now what they have done is to form a special headquarters called Qasem Soleimani, who, as you know, was the eliminated commander of the IRGC Sports Force. He was killed in January of 2020 in Iraq. And that particular headquarters is directly involved in terrorist operations across the world. And we also showed that we ourselves have been targets of several terrorist plots, including the famous June 2018, at which you were present, by the way. You had come there to report on it, and it was almost blown up. And an Iranian diplomat, the accredited diplomat in Vienna, who was in actuality the station chief for MIS in the whole of Europe, was the mastermind of that. And we also revealed in this conference who his boss was and who was giving him the marching orders. As you know, he brought a very powerful explosive TATP from Iran aboard a commercial airliner, Austrian Airlines, and passed it through the customs in a diplomatic patch, and then delivered it to the terrorist in Luxembourg. He traveled 1,000 miles from Vienna to deliver it there, but fortunately he was caught in Germany because he had been under surveillance. We also showed that the Iranian regime was involved in terrorism against our office in the NCRI office in Berlin, the Office of Supporters in London, 2 attacks on an office where NCRI supporters work in Paris. And of course, as you may know, in 2018, in August, the FBI unsealed a federal complaint of 2 Iranian sleeper cells, one of them actually a US citizen because he was born here, who were actually MIS agents in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And one part of their operation was a capture-kill operation against NCR officials in Washington, D.C. So this was a very important press conference. And if anything, I think Europeans and whomever else wants to negotiate with the regime should think twice as to who they are meeting with, because these are not diplomats, these are terrorists. And of course, I think it's quite good that the US administration and these 13 European countries have expressed concern. Let's hope that this statement goes beyond words and translates into action, and they close down the Iranian regime embassies, because these are not diplomatic centers. They are hubs of intelligence gathering, hatching terrorist plots, and kidnapping and killing. That, you know, several Iranian dissidents have been kidnapped and ultimately executed in Iran in the past few years.
So you were targeted in that group of officials in the U.S., right? The FBI.
Yes, actually myself and my colleague whom you know well, Ali Reza, who actually conducted the press conference yesterday, our name was specifically mentioned. They had taken lots of pictures of us.
Mm-hmm.
They had our commute under surveillance in Los Angeles, where we had traveled to, also in Washington, and also in New York. They had come actually to a rally that was held outside the UN headquarters in New York City. I think you also came there, and also in Washington, where we had a convention where there were very high-profile American dignitaries were attending in, if I'm not mistaken, May of 2018.
Yeah.
And yes, they had come there, and you know they had taken our pictures, and other also NCRI officials who are in Washington, D.C. So it was a very serious attempt on their part. Again, thanks to vigilance of U.S. law enforcement, they were apprehended, and they were tried and convicted and sentenced to jail.
So what is happening with the regime itself? We always talk about bringing it down from the inside and not necessarily with outside, force, but that your organization has the ability to take it down from the inside. What's happening on the ground?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because actually, as I was coming to our interview, we got a very, very serious report just coming out of, let me see if I can find it here, of 5 people sentenced to death, is right here, sentenced to death on the charge of membership in the MEK, and their appeals had been rejected by the Supreme Court. They were, as you may remember, when Evin prison was attacked during the Israeli assault during the 12-day war, the Iranian regime moved all the prisoners in Evin to another prison in Tehran called Fashafuye, which is a dreadful location, really lacking minimum means of subsistence and living standards for prisoners. Now, because of tremendous protests by families, they decided to return everybody back to Evin, save for these 5 prisoners. And they took them to another prison near Tehran, which is called Qezel Hesab prison. That's where execution sentences are carried out. And so this puts them at imminent risk of execution, remembering that on July 27, 2 other political prisoners, one 70 years old, Behruz Ehsani, and another Mehdi Hassani, 48 years old, the father of 3, were hanged despite an international outcry to save their lives on trumped-up charges, undergoing unfair trial, forced confessions, torture for 3 years, actually. And so, in fact, there has been a tremendous rise in the number of executions in Iran since this so-called moderate Pezeshkian took office. Actually, just to give you some specific data, just yesterday or the day before, 16 political prisoners were hanged on August the 6th. And 93 have been hanged in the past 2 weeks, which represents a 127% increase compared to the same period in 2024 and a 210% increase compared to 2023. And before that, 29 prisoners, including one woman, were hanged between August 3rd and August 6th. And in fact, during Pezeshkian's 1-year tenure, adding these 16, some 1,560 people have been hanged, including dozens of dissidents, many women, many juveniles. And what does this tell you? It tells you that the Iranian regime's status within Iran is very, very precarious and tenuous.
Mm-hmm.
And because protests are ongoing, Iran, as you know, is suffering now from chronic water shortage, power cuts, high prices, unemployment, and the regime cannot offer any solution. Everything has been a disaster since Pezeshkian took office. Iranian currency has lost more than 50% of its value. Every day there are protests in various cities across Iran, protesting shortage of water and also power cuts, consistent power cuts that destroys all the businesses, like bakeries, fish stores, because the dough and the fish rots when you have no electricity, as well as other vegetables and meat and beef and whatever. So the regime, the only way out available to it is to ramp up execution of Iranian citizens to intimidate the public. As you may know, previously it had Syria, it had Lebanon, it had the Houthis in Yemen, it had the Shiite militias in Iraq. But of course, with the devastating defeats it has suffered across the region, including the fall of Assad and decapitation of the Hezbollah and the pressures on the Houthis and whatnot, the only means of its survival is to turn against the Iranian people. And I mean, the number of executions are just staggering.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as you might imagine, the international community is deaf and mute. And the only thing they do is issue statements, but that, we don't care about the statements on those who are dead.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to do something about those who are living and face imminent executions.
Yeah.
And that is why I think our activities, both on the terrorism front and on the human rights front and on the nuclear front, are designed to demonstrate to the international community that enough is enough. Enough talking, let's do something, and deny this regime the lifeline with which it suppresses the Iranian people and wreaks havoc in the Middle East. And as of course there's serious concern about Iran's secret nuclear program to get the bomb. Yes, of course, they suffered heavy losses, heavy damage in the known sites, but that Iranian nuclear program has been shrouded in secrecy, and who knows where. They are basically working feverishly around the clock to get the bomb, which would be for them a life insurance policy.
Interesting. You mentioned the nuclear program. What about the snapback sanctions? Is that a thing? Is that something on the table?
Well, as you may know, the EU, actually E3, Germany, France, and Britain held talks with the regime a couple of weeks ago, and the meetings ended without any meaningful result. Both sides agreed to meet again. Mm-hmm. And of course, if snapback is triggered, I think it would be a very, very important step, because it would basically, what it would do is reactivate 6 Security Council resolutions that, if you remember, were suspended in the aftermath of the so-called Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action in July of 2015. Now, if those resolutions, which are, if I may just say, Resolution 1696, which was adopted on 31st July 2006, which was the first UN Security Council resolution on Iran nuclear program, and it demanded that the regime suspend all enrichment activity and reprocessing work. Then there was Resolution 1737, adopted on 23 December 2006. It imposed the first round of sanctions on the regime for non-compliance. It prohibited supply of nuclear-related materials and technology. Then there was Resolution 1747, which was adopted on 24 March 2007, expanded the sanctions, barred arms exports to Iran. Then there was Resolution 1803, 3 March 2008, in fact, broadened travel bans and asset freezes of regimes officials involved in the nuclear program. And then there was Resolution 1835 that condemned the regime's refusal to suspend uranium enrichment. And then you had the sixth one, Resolution 1929, adopted on 9 June 2010, which basically imposed the most far-reaching sanctions and prohibited the regime from investing abroad in uranium mining, banned ballistic missile activity, and a whole host of other things. But unfortunately, all of these resolutions were suspended in our view, a misplaced and illusory hope that with the JCPOA and the easing of sanctions, the regime would change its approach to its nuclear weapons program, which it did not. In fact, while the JCPOA was ongoing, the regime kept cheating, and they had 4 undeclared sites where the IAEA inspected, and they found uranium particles. And of course, the regime hasn't offered any explanation as to why. They continued their secret work on making warheads, which you need to put on these ballistic missiles to deliver the bomb. And of course, many of these, by the way, were revealed by the NCRI. In fact, over the past 20-some years, we have made 130 revelations about the Iran nuclear weapons program. So as you can see, Todd, and as we have been saying in all these years, that these problems that the international community has with this regime, they must be dealt with in a holistic approach. You cannot just focus on the nuclear deal and forget about their terrorism in the Middle East and their attempts to assassinate dissidents abroad. You cannot forget about their human rights abuses within Iran. And so all of these must be dealt with in a comprehensive manner. And you mentioned at the outset of the program that we say that regime change must be taken or undertaken by the Iranian people and the organized resistance. We are quite capable of doing that, but what is needed is for the international community, the US, Europe, others, to stand with us in this endeavor, to say, yes, after 46 years of tolerating this regime, offering it sanctions, closing our eyes to its abuses against its own people, killing of foreign nationals, the havoc they wreaked in Iraq, elsewhere, that it is time for this regime to go and let us stand with the Iranian people and help them do what they can do and they're willing to do. I mean, when you talk about these executions, this is the price that the Iranian people are paying every day to defy this regime. So it is time for the international community to really shift its policy. There has been a missing link in the Western policy toward Iran, and that missing link in the Iranian factor that has been ignored completely. And so that is why we say there has to be, I think, a very fundamental revision of Western approach to the Iranian regime. The mullahs are not faithful trade partners, interlocutors. They cheat and lie, and we are where we are today because of this failure of policy. Mrs. Rajavi, 21 years ago, the European Parliament said, look, you want to avoid war, but by appeasement, you will have dishonor and war. And of course, we saw that happened back in June. So that's where we are now.
Last question. The proxy army Hezbollah in Lebanon is allegedly been told to disarm by the government. A lot of pushback by the population in Lebanon. Any comments on that or thoughts on that?
Well, of course, I have seen the official statement, but as to whether Hezbollah has really disarmed remains to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
As you may know, of course, Hezbollah was the brainchild of the Iranian regime. It was created from scratch by the mullahs. You know, the former Iranian defense minister Hossein Dehqan boasts about forming the Hezbollah back in 1982-83 in the Bekaa Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the Iranian regime will do everything in its efforts to pressure the Lebanese government to prevent them from demanding total disarmament of the Hezbollah. If it happens, I think it's good for the people of Lebanon. I think the people of Lebanon want it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, their country has been turned into ruin. I remember when I was a young kid, you know, people were talking about Lebanon as the Paris of about Beirut as the Paris of the Middle East. But look at what it is now.
Yeah.
And so whether that in actuality has happened, I think the jury is still out. But if it happens, it's a good sign. It will further clip the wings of the mullahs from interfering in regional countries.
Ali, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on. And
My pleasure, Todd. You're doing great work, and thanks again for everything.
All right, take care.
Watching my friends gain more and more weight, and then eventually I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke, I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, you know, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition-specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mixed it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, you know, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this, you take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
We're slogging over Africa. Foot, slogging over Africa. Boot, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11.
Welcome back to the SCIF. The weekend is here, almost here. We ran an interview with Chef Gruel a few days ago, and we had a lot of customers that were buying our family farm beef boxes in the past, and since he changed that business, they were very interested in Chef Gruel's offer at the Wellness Company at Wellness Farms. So I'm going to run this again just by popular demand, and I hope you enjoy it, and then we'll close out the show. So we are honored to have with us today Chef Andrew Gruel, who is the Chief Nutrition Officer at the Wellness Company. Am I correct on that?
Yep.
So I'm curious, how did you get involved with the Wellness Company? Obviously, you're a food guy. Tell me about your business and how you got involved with TWC.
Certainly. Well, my whole entire really overview in food has been about kind of breaking the supply chain up a little bit, trying to serve the quality of fine dining, but also farm to table, real healthy food at that cost and convenience of faster food. I started a fast casual concept, grew to about 40 locations, with that being the mission. I got really deep in the food system and understanding that supply chain, how upside down it is, and why it's very difficult to assess good food. And I started talking with the Wellness Company before they thought about getting involved with food specifically, when they were doing more nutraceuticals. And I loved what they were doing with supply chain in that regard, right? From medicine, and really giving consumers the ability to kind of make decisions for themselves when it comes to their health, and not being relegated to just a doctor and a pharmaceutical scratch pad. And that was a model that I think and feel that we need in food in general, right? Farms, our supply chain, getting good food, real food to people. And interestingly, as I got to know them, they were in the process of developing and growing out that same framework for food specifically now to start, these meat boxes and ultimately chicken and other proteins and then beyond. So I was excited to jump aboard in order to really help take kind of my philosophy and that mantra and apply some of the wisdom that I've seen through the food system to that, and also get consumers to understand with a bit more clarity what they're eating and why they should be making better choices. And now obviously Wellness Farms, the arm of the wellness company, giving consumers the opportunity to break that supply chain and get good meat right now, the beef, mRNA free, vaccine free, direct from the farm.
So is there a network of farms that you're dealing with, or
yes,
are you
right now
involved in that side of it?
The idea right now is just, from the Wellness Farms, is just connecting with really good ranchers, U.S. ranchers, and taking, a portion of their supply to be able to process it ourselves and then directly distribute it through the Wellness Company's, their supply network, which is really like their members and their subscribers and the infrastructure that they've built up, so that we're cutting out all those middlemen. But we also know exactly, they've touched the cattle. They know exactly what is ending up on the consumer's plate.
So that's huge, right? I mean, because there's a lot of monkey business going on. I mean, I was reading about food glue in the meats, and I've done a lot of work with a rancher out in Nebraska before, and how the beef is fed, and is it finished on grains, is it all grass or whatever? I mean, what is the typical profile of the beef, do you know, that is coming in?
Yeah, so grass raised, grass finished, and then they finish on some other items. I think the key with the beef, when you talk about clean meat, right, you want to make sure that the animals are healthy. That's the most important thing that I think Americans overlook, is that we've gotten into this, this pattern in America of just mass production, and you lose the ability to give the animal, granted you're going to be eating it, but give it a good, healthy life. And it's that good, healthy life that creates a healthy animal, which creates healthy meat, which is then good for us. Because when you have sick animals, then you treat them with medicine, right? Specifically antibiotics, we've heard a lot about. I mean, 75% of the antibiotics in the United States is used on animals, right? Specifically cattle. And that there's certain rules and laws about tracing that, kind of diluting that out of the animal before it's ultimately harvested and slaughtered. However, we still don't know. I mean, the science isn't settled on that, whether you're really losing the antibiotic residue, because now we see these super bugs, and all the doctors and scientists, once again, typical kind of trust the science. In the beginning, they're like, oh, it's great. But now we find out that maybe it's not so good, that we've been consuming all these animals. So that's one of the keys with the Wellness Farms meat, is making sure that it's antibiotic free its entire life cycle. Why that's important is that if you don't need to use antibiotics, it's bigger than just the absence of the medicine. It's more about the health of the animal, because you never needed to use it. A sick animal doesn't taste good, to be frank. Let's get the official element. So that's a key piece of it. And then ultimately, like the vaccine element, mRNA is now being used through husbandry and poultry and pigs, and we're seeing it being introduced through cattle. And that's once again, another puzzle piece because people are really concerned about that. So it's kind of a proxy or a secondary avenue through which they're getting a lot of these under-regulated drugs by big pharma into our food system and into us.
Well, there's a shedding problem too that they don't really understand, right? If your pet or your meat or whatever has this mRNA in it, it could be getting on you just by contact. Do you know if that's the same with meat? You may not, but
yeah, I mean, well, ultimately, if you manipulate the RNA and then
Mhm.
you know, subsequently the DNA, and then you're consuming that, I mean, we don't know what the long-term effects are. And for anybody to suggest that it's 100% clean and clear and that they know, that's just not true. That's not scientifically possible by virtue of just studying data
right
over a long period of time.
Are you not using antibiotics on the beef, or excuse me, on the poultry or the pork as well?
Well, we haven't introduced those lines yet, but that'll
Okay.
ultimately be branded. You know, that's one of the selling points for those items as well. And we're talking with those
Okay.
farmers and those ventures too. But it's in regards to the meat and the meat boxes that we just started offering. Yeah, that's mRNA free, antibiotic free, and it's clean. And you know where it's coming from. It's coming directly from the farm. It's processed, and then it gets to you. And there's no middlemen, right? So no manipulation. And I think
Yeah.
there's an economic piece of this too that's important to talk about because it's also about the big, you know, kind of the big four. There's four main meat processors and packers that are controlling the whole industry. And they're really ripping a lot of the livelihood away from some of these small independent
true. Yeah.
farmers.
So all of these are not from the big four meat production companies.
No, I
correct?
mean, we're saying, look, you know, we're going to buy X amount of head and these are ours, and then we're going to process them and they're going to go directly to the consumer. So that gives the rancher an opportunity now to circumvent that, you know, I don't want to say tainted supply chain, but I would certainly say that the supply chain isn't motivated to keep us healthy.
So true. So is it all U.S.? I mean, does made in the USA you see a lot of? Does that mean actually made in the USA when USDA says it? Do you know?
Well, it depends, right? Like, so with ground beef, I mean, if it says U.S. raised, you know, the USDA labels it as U.S. beef, and it's a whole muscle cut, then it has to be. You won't see that a lot, though. That's what's interesting. We kind of assume that to be the case, but that's not always the case when you look at how much of our meat and ultimately eggs and other products are imported. It's the ground beef too that you really got to be concerned about because that's where they're cutting in, you know, Brazilian meat, Honduran meat, like just meat from all over the world, and you don't know how that's being treated.
Wow, so true. What about the beef numbers? There's a huge I guess you go to the store, the steaks are really expensive, right? And that's a lot due to the lower count of the cattle, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, ultimately that is supply and demand, but then that's also input, transportation. I mean, those are the general elements of the economy that's going to apply to that. But then it's also the kind of the oligopoly, the ability to control the price because of a lack of competition gives a lot of these packers the, you know, they can pass through so much of the cost and the consumers don't have an alternate option. So that's where, you know, in the absence of a competitive supply chain alongside, you know, whether you want to call it parallel or what have you, that's where they can control that pricing. And we see those prices really ride the index, whether it's CPI, you know, inflation. But I think that, you know, they can manipulate that too. That's the key. So that's why it's always good to kind of know your farmer, or at least know where your product is coming from and know that it's a direct supply chain.
You know, we were importing for a while. We had an advertiser and his business ended up changing, but so he's not advertising with us anymore, but it was in Nebraska, and the taste of the beef direct from the farms was so much different. It's like buying a tomato in the grocery store. You know, most of them there's no taste. They taste like plastic, but when you go get a real one off the farm, it's night and day. And the same was with the beef. Is that what you're getting your customers saying?
Oh, 1000%. And that's the key, right? Like I try not to get into and obfuscate the conversation with a lot of the economic supply chain, health and science pieces, because at the end of the day, people just want quality, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of say it jokingly more to seafood, but sustainable tastes better. So when people make decisions about what they're going to eat, a lot of people are driven by principle, but at the end of the day, like people want good quality product first before anything else.
Right.
So for me as a chef, right, like at the end of the day, I'm really a chef and I think about quality. And when I eat this meat and you taste the difference, and I always do these side-by-side comparisons with customers and team members, and I'm like, taste the difference. I mean, it is savory, it is rich. It's almost, not gamey, but not in a bad way, right? Like you can actually taste the product as opposed to something you're chewing in. It's just really has that flavor of cardboard. It is. You can taste the terroir like wine. I mean, you know, when people taste wine, it's like they get into the detail of the grape. I could feel a cool breeze at one point on this grape as I'm drinking this wine. I mean, meat's the same way.
Sure. How did you decide on the wellness company? You mentioned you just were aware of what they were doing. I mean, what else attracted you to them?
Well, I mean, you know, they're putting principle over profit, I think, to some degree. So they said, you know, Foster, the founder of the wellness company, said, look, you know, there's this issue in our supply chain, especially coming out of COVID, and that consumers don't have the ability to make medical decisions for themselves. And it's so easy to be able to circumnavigate the lopsided supply chain that's in place right now, where consumers can't make medical decisions for themselves. And let's pull together, you know, minds from the medical community, people like Dr. Peter McCullough, and Dr. Drew Pinsky, Dr. Kelly Vick, pulled together all of these doctors and said, look, let's really work with the patients and let's get them these products, you know, whether it's nutraceuticals, whether it's the emergency wellness kits, you know, the medicines that they need day in and day out, and some antibiotics that they can buy, and they can consistently, you know, they can garner these products without having to go through the gauntlet of medical hell, insurance companies, et cetera, going to the doctor. Now they can just do it over the phone. They can do it with a click of a button, and they know that they're getting the products that they need because they've done the research themselves, and they're not being manipulated by the medical community.
What's the pushback? You're a chef. I mean, you see, I mean, food, local farms is all big, but there is an attack, I think, on our food supply. And what are you seeing on the ground, pushback against this health movement? Where are you?
Yeah, the biggest pushback, I would say, is the inability to release or remove some of the barriers that allow food service operators, right? Because I kind of go down from like the biggest guys, which are the food producers and packers, and then you kind of go down that supply chain. And the food service operators are the ones that are really distributing, both retail and restaurant, the lion's share of this food. And it's hard. They make it very difficult for us to be able to buy these products. You know, that's where I keep going back to this supply chain piece, because let's just say you open a restaurant tomorrow and you're like, I'm going to buy everything local, and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to make sure that every single thing comes within a 50-mile radius, or at least we know the farms and we know where it's coming from. You would be hard pressed to be able to get that product to your restaurant without almost renting a truck and driving out and picking it up yourself, which, you know, in the restaurant business, that's virtually impossible to do. So you're kind of relegated to one or two of these big distributors, and they will not supply any of that product, because their largest customers, the people giving them the beef, who are selling to one or two of these big packers, they want the small guys to have to sell to the auction lots to get sucked up to one of these two big packers. So if you're siphoning off from the bottom of that supply chain and getting the good stuff, well, they don't want that, right? They want it consolidated, and they want it all kind of treated with the same chemicals, and they want it consistent, and they want the prices low, as if it's just a commodity product. So that's the hardest thing right there, which is where I think it's interesting. And I connected with Wellness Company is because they look at it the same way. They're like, we got to shake the supply chain up so that we can create these tentacles of supply to the people who actually care about the product and want to do so. And that takes, you know, economically, that's not always the most efficient move. But once you get some critical mass going, it can be very positive for both the consumer and ultimately financially and economically. But it's a huge risk. I mean, it's 10x the risk to do it that way than it would be to just start a regular restaurant, in my analogy, and just buy from the big guys.
Well, you know, you can tell when you're at one of those restaurants buying from the big guys, because the food is, you know, just not spectacular, in my opinion. You gotta, so what can the Joe bag of donuts on the ground do to help that process? I mean, what is to, like, insist on certain foods, or what?
Yeah, I mean, look, right now, it's certainly, when you're going out to eat, it's just about awareness, right? So like, obviously talking to the restaurants, your local restaurants, trying to support some of those people that are doing it, right? So a lot of times it's like, okay, I can go to this kind of commercialized 500 unit steakhouse, or I find the local guy who's doing the right thing. Now that might be a couple of dollars more on the steak, but if you start even moving a little bit of that demand over and helping those small guys, and really voting with your fork, if you will, that's going to make a big change. And just being loud. Like, I know in this world of social media being king, it is important that we talk about this type of stuff, because people are legislating off of these social media platforms. They're they're using them as focus groups. They're understanding what the market wants. And then they're making changes, albeit some of them are very small. There's still changes nonetheless.
Well, they're mining the data for sure, and then that gets fed up for the policymakers or whatever. So, I had a farm a decade ago, and I had a small produce business just delivering to some of the restaurants. So I totally understand where you're coming from. It's a monopolistic. It's almost, it is a mafia business in some places. To break into that cycle and to get that diner or whatever, and to get that business is pretty tough. And then they come back and they pressure the owner not to buy from you. And so I totally get what you're saying, man. Are you seeing success in this?
Yeah, I am. We're seeing success across the board. And when I say we, I mean those of us that are part of this kind of movement to really move and our food supply in the right direction. To use the example you just laid out there, which is your anecdotal, it's your real life experience. When you're going to that local diner and you're trying to get them to switch over to you, like, you really need a selling proposition that trumps just the dollars and cents. Because you can't be on this. You're giving them a price sheet, and they're just looking at the number, right? Case size, money, that's it. Tomato.
Guy's a quarter cheaper, I'm going to buy from him.
Yeah, exactly. So it's about establishing the value that the better product really is important. And I think what we're starting to see, at least over the past year or two, especially with like RFK and Maha and companies like the Wellness Company pushing these things forward, is that people understand, oh, wow, there is a significant value to that. So now when I'm comparing these two price sheets or inventory sheets, I'm looking at quality is a real important figure or metric in those numbers. And it's not just the raw sense.
Yeah. And you got to make relationships with the chefs like you and the guys making the call at the restaurant where they're going to buy from and what do they want and all that's fascinating. Andrew, anything else you want to get out, man? Appreciate it.
No, I mean, I think in regards to just kind of what the Wellness Farms is doing now is utilizing exactly what they put in place in regards to the Wellness Company with the medicine and the nutraceuticals, and saying, look, let's do the same thing. Let's give consumers the ability to have more freedom making choices when they're at the dinner table or with their fork, if you will, and let's create that supply. Let's start to siphon off all those great products that are kind of getting sucked up into the mass of I don't want to say evil, but into the mass of the poor products. And let's pull out those great products, those local ranchers, those local producers, and let's create our own supply chain so we can make sure that they get the money they need in order to continue to grow, right, to help local communities. But then the consumer is able to get the right products so that they're eating well and thinking about their health. Because, at the end of the day, if we want to save a couple dollars, we're ultimately going to pay it back in healthcare costs down the road by buying the wrong product.
Totally agree. And I think you guys also need to be aware that there is an effort to like stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that you have to be aware of not being painted as like the new evil corporation, but keep that local touch is key in my opinion. Anyway, thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
It.
Bye. The bird flu is circulating. We're getting more and more press, more fear mongering, more warnings about this. First, let's start with that. What say you on?
Well, what I say is it specifically is not circulating. It's in animals. There's one human, maybe two transmissions, no human-to-human transmission. And stand by, everybody. If there is some sort of sudden human-to-human transmission, you should immediately be suspicious that gain of function was involved with that. Just the fact that they're taking an animal virus and going nuts on it in the press and talking about it all the time, that to me leads me to believe that they have concerns that somebody is doing something with that virus, because this would not happen naturally, in my opinion.
Our world is changing rapidly. Many crucial systems we depend upon are collapsing. And the most important system that is failing is the food supply.
Mr. President, this Council is more than aware of the multiple challenges and threats the world is facing today. But the threat of famine, people starving slowly to death, must be a red line.
These food prices are going to keep going up and up, and they're going to keep feeding excuse after excuse, narrative after narrative.
Yeah,
you're going to have to get off that treadmill and start getting more autonomous with your own food growing.
You want to make sure that you can eat, because frankly, food is the biggest issue as we are going through these transitions.
But amidst the chaos, there is a path to resilience. Marjorie Wildcraft is the female leader of the survival and preparedness movement. Marjorie has taught millions of people how to grow an abundance of food in a grid-down situation, even if you have no experience, are older, or out of shape.
I've spent decades finding the fastest, easiest, and funnest ways for the average person to be able to grow a lot of food. I've created a step-by-step process that's so simple that even kids to elders have been using it in order to grow a lot of their own food. And you can too, even if you have no experience, you're older, or you're out of shape.
Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Get started today.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I hope you enjoyed Chef Gruel. You know, we're continuing to build a retail ecosystem around CDM so that you can support us by just doing normal transactions for your household. One of those is beef and protein for your family. So buy from the Wellness Farms. Go to twc.health/CDM. Use promo code CDM. You'll get 10% off. And support your family. Buy good product. No mRNA, no antibiotics. Great taste, local farms, Americans, and support free media as well. So that's one way you can do it. The other way is with cdmfood.com, CDM Food for our audio audience, where you can learn how to grow a lot of food, a lot of nutrition, a lot of calories in a small space, even if you're older and out of shape. Marjorie Wildcraft, we're going to get her back on soon. Just been so slammed. But you can learn about how to become more self-reliant. Self-reliant is part of what we do at CDM. Food security is obviously that. You need to be able to grow it, know how to grow it. You can go to her, cdmfood.com, learn about her site. There's a lot of free content. And then join the Grow Network and be part of that, growing great food for your family and for yourself. So with that, wow, what a show. Someone... a lot of good comments in the chat. I appreciate all of that. Thank you very much. And it's really growing, and that we really appreciate. Please spread the word about the show. Tell people, share the links, share the clips. We'll be back Monday at 10. The Beirut trip is kind of, we're in the stage of trying to figure out what to do, but it's going to happen, just a timing issue. So see us on the Georgia show at 2 p.m. on Sunday. Also, Bill Quinn and I will be there for that. So much going on. Thank you again. Monday through Friday on the SCIF, 10 to noon Eastern, and we'll see you Monday and Sunday on the Georgia show. Thank you.